Good morning, dear students. So, in this class, we will study about the Verger next session. In the previous class, we have already discussed about the author of Verger, his contribution to the field of literature, as well as his important works. So, the Verger is one of the eye-opening session for the students because it shows the turning point how the illiterate person he has turned from illiterate to the successful entrepreneur or the businessman. So, I am Dr. Shivaji Ramagudaji, Assistant Professor of English, Government Postgrad College, Kittur. So, in the just the quick revision of the previous class, so The Verger is a short story written by Somerset Maugham. It reveals around a simple, uneducated man named Albert Edward Foreman, who serves as a verger at a church. The story explores the themes of class, education, and the idea that success doesn't always depend on formal education. It is a keynote or the turning point of this short story. See here, the education and the idea that success doesn't always depend on the formal education. So here they can given the importance of the formal education or the schooling educations because the Somerset Maugham create the character or the protagonist, the foreman. He was illiterate, but he was a very disciplined and the planned person. So next, when the new vicar was appointed to the St. Peter Church, means Albert Edward is a middle-aged man who has been working as a verger in St. Peter's Church in the town of St. Peter's for many years. Means approximately the 16 years he has served as a dedicated person. His job is to take care of the church day-to-day tasks such as lighting the candles, cleaning the church, and organizing the services. He is a kind, hardworking, and honest man, but he lacks formal education. See, it is the only one the lacking we called about his formal education. Albert never learned to read and write. See here, he never learned to read and write because as a child he was very poor and his family couldn't afford schooling. So this is the reason because his parent is unable to send him the school because he belongs to the poor family. Despite this, Albert is a reliable and trusted employee. See here, though he is illiterate, but he is a very interesting character because he is a trustable and reliable employee in that church who has been served the church more than 16 years. So Albert is a very poor and he is proud of his job and has a great respect for the church. He likes to keep everything neat and orderly and he takes his responsibilities very seriously. So even though he was a man who is very responsible for his the work, even though he is not highly educated, he has a deep understanding of his work and the people he serves. His relationship with the other persons is a respectable and trustful, as they all know about the Albert is dependable. So in the meanwhile, there the Albert's life takes a turn when the new vicar, who is a learned and educated man, arrives at the church. And the vicar is a man of education and is keen to bring changes to the church. So the new vicar, who was newly appointed, and he decided to bring some changes in the church. And he noticed that Albert Foreman, despite being a faithful and a devoted servant, is uneducated and cannot read and write. So he identifies that Albert Foreman is a skilled, devoted servant. But he noticed that the other point, he cannot read and write. This bothers the vicar, who believes that a man in such a position should be able to be read and write. So according to his rules, a man who is a very sincere and doing all his work, at the same time he must be read and write. He must know some knowledge about the reading and writing, especially in a church setting where literacy is important for conducting services and reading scriptures. So this is the drawback of the um, foreman noticed by the vicar. One day, the vicar asked Albert come to his office. So finally, the newly appointed vicar ordered the Albert foreman come and meet in the office. The vicar, in a very polite and gentle way, says to Albert that he should learn to read and write. The one condition as put in front of the foreman, he must be read and write. He explains that as a verger of the church, as a verger of the church, Albert should be able to read the Bible. Albert should be read the Bible, hymns, and other important documents. But the Albert is a bit uncomfortable with the sessions because he has never been taught to read and write. So this is the his drawback. So here the newly appointed vicar has said Albert at any cost he must be read the Bibles, hymns, and other important documents of the church. But here the foreman is unable to read that because he is illiterate. He doesn't see the need for education in performing his duties. So he always think that the education is not important for do my service here. However, the vicar insists and Albert reluctantly agree to try and learn. So he has given the condition to the Albert foreman. So you have to try to learn the read and write. So the Albert tries to learn how to read and write, but he finds it is too difficult. He struggles with he struggles with the lesson and begins to feel embarrassed and discouraged after several weeks of trying. So he tried, but ultimately he has failed to read and write. Albert decides that he is not able to learn to read and write, and that is beyond him. So he finally thinks that now the age factor, and it is highly impossible to learn and to read and learn. He comes to the conclusion that he cannot continue his work, and finally he has decided he cannot be continuing his work in the church if the vicar expect him to be literate. And finally he tells that it is highly impossible and I cannot read and write if the vicar is explaining the same. So it is not possible for me to the illiterate. So Albert makes the difficult decision to resign from his position as a verger, and finally the poor man has resigned his job as a verger. So Albert's resignation shocks the vicar and the church stop. Everyone has shocked when the Albert foreman has resigned his vicar and he wanted to be leave the church. They cannot understand why he should leave a job he has done so well for long just because he cannot learn, read, and write. Albert is a very calm and determined when he tells them that he feels he has no other choice. So finally decided there is no other choice. At any cost, I want to leave this job. He gives his resignation letter to the vicar, and the church officials are left to find a replacement. And finally, they have decided to find the new vicar for this church, and he has resigned his job. Now, when the turning point in the life of the Albert Foreman, after resigning from the church, Albert is uncertain about what to do with his life. So he is totally confused on what to do with his life. He has always worked at the church and never thought about doing anything else. See here, his only mistakes, he did his service very extraordinary, but he don't know about any other work how to serve. However, he eventually decides to open a small business. He has think that to open a small business, and since he knows how to light a fire, clean and organize things, Albert opens a small tobacconist shop. So see here, the Albert opens a small tobacconist shop He works hard and is dedicated to making the business a success, and he decided to work hard and make the success in the particular business. Though he cannot read and write, Albert has a natural sense of business and a good understanding of the people. He know the good understanding of the people. So that way he started the business. He knows that products to tell and how to treat his customers well. And he know about how to treat the customers, how to behave with the customers. And Albert shops become very successful. His shops become very successful over time. He becomes wealthy and well respected in the community. Slowly, gradually, his business skill was developing and he was popular in that area, and the people are increasing, the customers are increasing, and now he become a successful businessman in that locality. He is able to live compatible and even his authors work from him. So the thing is that even he become a successful entrepreneur or the businessman, still he cannot know how to read and write. He continued to be content with his life even though he still cannot read and write. He never feels the need to learn as he has found success and happiness through his own hard work, common sense and perseverance. And every day whatever the money he gets, he goes to the bank manager and to deposit the money. And finally the bank manager is surprised to see his success in the field of. And the biggest question of bank manager to ask what foreman would be if he could read and write. So without reading and writing, he has earning this much of money. Then if he could be a literate person, then what is his position? The foreman replied that he would be a verger at the church. So it is the biggest irony of the story. He would replied he would be a verger at the church. And see here, the irony of the story lies in the fact that Foreman depicts his lack of formal education, becomes more successful in life after leaving the church than he ever was as the verger. In contrast to the vicar, he believes that education was necessary for success. Albert shows that it is possible to succeed without formal education. And Albert Foreman's natural abilities, his hard work, dedication, and understanding of people are more important than the education that the vicar believes was necessary for his job. And at the end, dear students, Albert's success in his tobacco shop serves as a reminder that success is not always determined by the formal education or academic qualifications sometimes. So people can achieve the great things through perseverance, hard work, and the ability of to understand and adapt to the world around them. The Albert story also illustrate the importance of self-confidence and staying true to oneself even when faced with challenges of setbacks. So, dear students, in this class we learn about how the illiterate verger finally successful as a big businessman. Okay, in the next class we'll discuss about the remaining part of this class. Thank you so much.